Hello. So I'm a little bit spoilt for choice this morning because we have this article about Sir Howard Davis, the NatWest chairman, and then we have an article here about the Labour reaction to Alison Rose's removal, either by herself or from an external force, from Coutts Bank. And then we have this amusing little tweet from Nigel Farage about Gina Miller. So let's go back to Howard Davis. I think this is sort of interesting. Oh, hang on a minute. Let's get this centered. Okay. I don't do feelings, is what Sir Howard Davis said. Well, he does look like a happy chappy, doesn't he? Sir Howard Davis is a man under pressure, it says here. Oh, no, I'd say he looks quite relaxed there. After overseeing, do you know what? He reminds me of Mr. Burns. I've just realised. Okay, well, without the smile. After overseeing one of the most tumultuous weeks in NatWest's recent history, the 72-year-old attempted to use the bank's half-year results to draw a line under the crisis. After acknowledging the painful period triggered by the botched closure of Nigel Farage's accounts and apologising to customers and investors, the bank's chairman wanted to focus on the future. He praised Dame Alison as a great leader, but said her resignation is now in the past. And then he said, none of this means we should lose sight of the success of this bank today. And that rather reminds me of that comment about the Nazis, or the fascists at any rate, making the trains run on time. You could say they were a big success. That was in Italy. You could say that the Nazis in Germany built good roads. You know, there's a limit to what you can say when you're trying to balance the achievements of somebody or some organisation against other achievements. No amount of good road building and train running on timing made up for the fact that they were murdering their own citizens. I'm not talking merely about the Jews. I'm talking about the people who were considered substandard in any way, the gypsies, the people who were ill in some way, mentally ill or physically disabled. They were doing that too. You can't say that their road building made up for that. And similarly, you can't say that the bank is successful and that means that's all right then, because it's successful on an immoral basis. When there's an immoral basis, however successful something might look, it ends up falling apart very spectacularly, sooner or later. And the fact that this cheeky chappy here can't see that shows me that he is not suitable to be running that organisation, because he appears to have no sense of morals. He says, I don't do feelings. No, he doesn't do morals. Oh, before I go on, I'll tell you I'm Granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. I'm also on Twitter and Gab, which is where I let you know when I've uploaded a new video. Please like this video, please share it, please subscribe if you're on YouTube. Do check that you are actually still subscribed. You can donate as well. All the links are in the description. Now I'm going to be talking about a little clip which was tweeted on by Lawrence Fox. He says, welcome to your next Chancellor of the Exchequer. And this is Rachel Reeves Why did that? Oh, that came up from Channel 4 News. She's being interviewed for Channel 4 News. Now, I won't be able to play the sound because it's the computer's set up for the external mic, but I'll read it to you. I don't like some of this, says Rachel Reeves. And remember, the next Chancellor of the Exchequer, if Labour gets in. I don't like some of this, frankly, what I see as bullying attitudes towards her. Bullying. She made a colossal error of judgment. And that's not bullying. So what she's doing is picking up the gender card, isn't she? She's the first female chief executive of NatWest, continues Rachel Reeves. But how do you know? Is my question. Have you inquired about her internal plumbing by any chance? Or does that really matter anyway? Not according to your boss. Oh no, he's changed his mind, hasn't he? Let's carry on. She's the first female chief executive of NatWest. Well, that's wrong to start with. She's the chief executive, or was, of Coutts, not NatWest. So she got that wrong. You should have a handle on these things, madam. You are the Chancellor of the Exchequer in waiting, aren't you? The other thing is that female has nothing to do with it. She is the chief executive of NatWest. That should be sexless or genderless or whatever. When you're the head of a bank, that has nothing to do with what sex you are. However, these guys like to define it. And the next, she took over at a time when the bank had real big problems. Well, yeah, maybe she did. But it turns out she couldn't stay the course. It seems to me that Alison Rose has done a good job turning that bank around. But I don't know hang on, what does she say? I don't know the details of this specific case. Why not? You should. She's given herself an out there. Obviously, she knows the details. The details are that this chief executive leaked personal, private banking details to a BBC journalist. Right, next. Let me say this, if I was in the Treasury at the moment, rather than Jeremy Hunt and his Conservative ministers, oh, be still my beating heart, what would she do? I'd be spending my time this summer trying to ensure that families in Scarborough, like the ones I've spoke to today, are properly protected during this cost of living crisis. Oh yeah, bring up the crisis, change the subject. Yeah? Rather than picking a fight with banks on behalf of Nigel Farage. And there you have the whole problem with the Labour Party. Again, a problem of morals. Confusing feelings with morals. She feels for the people of Scarborough who are having trouble in a cost of living crisis, which is worldwide. And they're facing starvation in parts of Africa right now, by the way. But she's changed the subject to that. And then she suggests that because it's Nigel Farage, you don't need to worry about what the banks have done. I wonder if she'd be worried about this. Gina Miller, staunch supporter of Remain and thorn in the side of the British public, where she has taken up several doomed court cases on very shaky legal grounds to get Britain back into the EU. Nigel Farage says that this situation is completely wrong. Nigel Farage does know about morals, surprisingly enough to many people on the left. Not surprising to me. Gina Miller voices fear for democracy. Oh, suddenly she's worried about democracy over closure of her party's bank. Gina Miller, whose voice for democracy when Farage's bank account was closed was singularly muted, if not completely silent. is now very concerned about democracy when her bank account was closed. The anti-Brexit campaigner Gina Miller has said, "We don't have a functioning democracy if new political parties cannot access banking services." That's absolutely right. And she has full support from Nigel Farage. He has spoken out in her favour. She didn't speak out in his favour, but then she says it was a bigger issue than the closure of Nigel Farage's bank account, because after all, now it's happening to her. Miller, who came to prominence bringing legal cases over Brexit, I don't know how many of them there were. Could have been about 10, maybe more. And they all cost the British taxpayer money. But never mind, she was told that by Monzo, her online bank, that her True and Fair Parties account would close in September. So she has a party called True and Fair. And I find that rather amusing. True and Fair. That reminds me of the Soviet World Radio Service, which I used to listen to quite a lot. It was called Radio Peace and Progress. And then they changed it to the World Service of the, I think it was when they became the Russian Federation, but it might have been while they were still Soviet. Anyway, it was the World Service of whatever it was. 9 banks had turned down the True and Fair Party before it got the account with Monzo in 2021, according to Miller. And she said that is a bigger issue. The fact that as a new insurgent political party you have no access to banking services, which is extraordinary in a democracy. Okay, so it's extraordinary here, and here we have a shadow chancellor of the Exchequer who is talking about being kind to women instead of picking a fight with Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage, who is standing up for this anti-Brexiteer. It's a bit ironic, isn't it? Okay, well, yeah, that's a little rundown of what's happening, of the great banking scandal. Yeah, till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.